So thanks for the introduction. Hi everyone, my name's Zach White. I'm so excited to be here from Cincinnati, Ohio in the United States. So like many of you, as an elder millennial, the early days of the internet definitely shaped my view of technology, and it was certainly an experience in coming to age with the ability to participate in a new disruptive space that would transform the world to come. And likewise, I am very proud to have joined PPG's optical monomers and coatings business right about 3 years ago to learn and drive our growth into the next realm of disruptive technologies such as smart eyewear and extended reality devices. So today I'm really excited to be able to share with you some insight in an area that I feel is especially important for XR enablement, optics. So in this session we're going to explore the different properties of lens materials to understand their impact on the augmented reality user experience. So my hope is that I can provide some new insights not only to hardware developers and device designers, but also anyone who wears or has an interest in eyewear. So a quick view of the agenda. I'd like to give a short introduction to PPG and our history as an innovator in optical materials. We'll then dive into some of the physical and optical properties of different materials that are used in lenses so we can understand how they contribute to a good lens and describe the implications of each on the AR experience. And then I'll end with a glimpse into the future of XR optics with a brief highlight of one of the ways that PPG is continuing to drive innovation in this space. So who is PPG? PPG was founded back in 1883 when two entrepreneurs started the first commercially successful plate glass factory in the United States. Known at the time as Pittsburgh Plate Glass, the company focused on innovation and quality. And nearly 140 years later, we're here still dedicated to these priorities. So over the years, we have grown and evolved into one of the world's largest coatings and specialty materials companies. We currently have over 50,000 employees across more than 75 countries. We're united by the single belief that our paints, our coatings, our specialty materials enrich lives every day. And this gives rise to our purpose to protect and beautify the world. And this purpose is evident in so many of the ways that our products touch your lives. And you can see some examples here on the photos on the slide. So PPG coatings and materials can be found all around you, even at this moment. From the architectural paint on the walls of this venue, to the paint on the walls of your hotel rooms that you're staying in, to a material that is used to help make your passports more secure, to the OLED emitters and functional coatings on the mobile devices that you may be holding or maybe in your pocket right now, and even the many layers of material that make up the eyeglass lenses that a lot of you are looking at me right now. So as a part-time eyeglass wearer myself, until I joined PPG, I didn't fully appreciate all the technology and the materials that go into producing such a simple yet impactful medical device. So now let's focus on the optical materials used in prescription eyeglasses. Going back in time, the first lenses were made out of glass, which has very good optical properties and are well suited for vision correction. And while glass is still used in a limited number of cases today, it was used as the primary material for lenses until the mid-20th century. Now, during the Second World War, PPG had developed a material known as CR39. And CR39 is a name derived from the abbreviation of Columbia Resin 39, which refers to the 39th formula developing the Columbia Resins Project, where the Columbia Chemical Company was a subsidiary and the chemical producing entity within PPG at the time. And the primary use of this material was to be a strong yet lightweight protective barrier for the fuel tanks of aircraft. Now, after the war, due to its lightweight yet glass-like optical properties, CR39 found new life as the first commercially successful plastic lens material. And this continues today as CR39 remains the largest category of lenses sold worldwide. Now, since introducing CR39, PPG has grown into a leading developer and provider of a full portfolio of optical lens materials and coatings that serve a range of refractive indices and use cases. So on the chart here to the right, you can see some of our core products, such as CR39 monomer, Trivex lens material, high-ri, high-index monomers, as well as our portfolio of high-guard protective and anti-scratch coatings. Now, PPG really prides itself in being a customer-centric business. So our preferred approach is to work in partnership to develop products and solutions to meet the needs of our customers. So while we're not a lens manufacturer ourselves, we believe it's very important to work together with as the material provider with both the device designer and the optical component manufacturer. We want to ensure that the appropriate material selection is made to meet or exceed the final product specifications, and that there's an optimization between the material and the manufacturing process. And this is especially important in an area like ophthalmics, where there's a demand for high levels of customization to meet the needs of each user. So in today's modern world, as more people, especially children, spend hours engaged with digital devices, a lot of screen time, the unfortunate reality is that conditions such as myopia or nearsightedness are on the rise. Just within the United States alone, 3/4 of adults use some form of vision correction, and nearly 2/3 wear prescription glasses. For true AR to exist and be commercially successful, the user's vision of reality must be as good or better than the information that developers, like many of you, are working so hard to project in front of the eye. So therefore, lens materials must be considered in the development of AR glasses, because the performance of the transparencies between the eye and the real world will significantly impact the user experience. So how do we define whether a lens material is good or not? This can be simplified into 3 elements. Is it durable? Is it light enough and comfortable for all-day wear? And is it optically clear? Now today we'll compare several lens materials, but one that I would like to highlight specifically for the AR use case is called Trivex. And Trivex is known across the ophthalmic industry as a premium lens material with a reputation for being the optimal combination of these 3 elements. And like CR39, the origins of Trivex also arise from military applications, particularly as a transparent material for helicopter windshields and canopies for fighter jets, where a high impact, mechanically stable, optically clear, and chemically resistant material is needed really to be able to withstand those punishing conditions. So due to the properties of this material, the chemistry was adapted for consumer eyewear and released as Trivex lens material back in 2002. So due to the strength of Trivex, it remains a preferred option for physically demanding applications such as glasses for children, active adults, and as well as rimless style eyeglass frames. So what makes Trivex an ideal lens material for the AR device and its performance and user experience? Let's begin by discussing durability. Most commercial optical materials are liquid thermoset monomers that are cast and then cured into strong, highly cross-linked polymers. You can compare this to polycarbonate, another common optical lens material, which is a thermoplastic that starts as beads that are then melted and then injection molded under pressure. And you can see in the impact test results here that Trivex and polycarbonate both have very similar impact strengths, but the inherent chemistry of thermoset monomers lends several advantages to Trivex. And first, due to the process in which they're polymerized, thermosets contain a much lower amount of internal physical stresses. And this is evident through analyzing levels of birefringence. So internal stresses in the lenses, it manifests as birefringence, which is an optical distortion. And it's illustrated here through photos of lenses. They're kind of small, but these are taken under a circular polarizer. So while crown glass to the left appears virtually free of birefringence, you can see that polycarbonate contains an exceptionally high amount. And we certainly want to avoid birefringence, as it can cause unwanted optical effects such as ghost images. Excuse me here. Okay, so second, due to the amount of cross-linking, thermosets have an advantage of excellent resistance against chemicals such as organic solvents that typically damage polycarbonate, such as acetone. The next element, and one that directly impacts the user experience, is lightweight comfort. The specific gravity of that same range of optical materials is shown here. Now, specific gravity is a measure of density, particularly how many grams of mass would occupy 1 ml or 1 cubic centimeter of volume. So think the lower the specific gravity, the lighter the lens. And this effect is really amplified on components with larger geometries, such as visors and cover glasses. So for those of you that have used the Apple Vision Pro, imagine the weight difference if all of the glass in the headset was substituted for a lightweight plastic, such as Trivex. It would reduce the weight of those components by over 50%. Now, one common misconception is that higher refractive index materials means lighter lenses. This is not necessarily true. Although higher refractive indices typically allow for thinner lenses, it must be understood that the density typically increases with refractive index, and that's due to the heavier molecules required to raise the index, such as sulfur and inorganic compounds. And finally, I'd like to talk about the third element that impacts performance, optical clarity. In optical materials, a key measurement is chromatic aberration. Chromatic aberration is essentially the failure of a lens to focus all colors to the same point. This is caused by something called dispersion. And a quick way to explain this is that the focal length of a lens is dependent on the refractive index. But at the same time, lenses will refract increasing wavelengths of color differently. Therefore, each color is brought to focus at a different distance, and the result is called color fringing, a distortion that will cause fuzzy, unclear images. So to measure and compare the chromatic aberration of materials, we use a number called the ABI value. You can see that crown glass and CR39 both have very high ABI values. This means they have very low chromatic aberration and the best optical clarity of the material shown. The next highest ABI material is Trivex. Now, a trend in the data to note is that ABI value typically decreases while the refractive index increases for most commercial optical materials. But you can see one exception to this trend. Out of all the common lens materials presented, polycarbonate actually has the lowest ABI value, despite having a lower refractive index than both 1.67 and 1.60 materials. So to recap, we just covered three key elements and several performance features of lens materials. In the chart, you can see that each of these features have some implication to the augmented reality user experience. So for a good lens and the best AR experience, we want durability, we want impact and chemical resistant lens with low birefringence, we want low density for all-day wearable comfort, and we also want optical clarity. A higher ABI value is important for image fidelity. Finally, we mentioned that refractive index can impact lens thickness, but there are trade-offs in all the above features as refractive index is increased. Materials with higher indices are best used in cases to manage lens thickness for very high prescriptions. So let's take all the data for the materials that we just explored. You can see that glass has excellent optical properties, but it's very heavy and not impact resistant. CR39 is an excellent glass alternative, but not as impact resistant as Trivex or polycarbonate. Polycarbonate does have advantages in its manufacturability and its impact resistance, but is otherwise a very poor optical lens material. High-index monomers such as 1.60 and 1.67 are excellent options to prevent very thick lenses for high vision correction needs, but they tend to be much heavier while also sacrificing optical clarity. Finally, Tri-Vex possesses superior impact resistance, great optical properties, and the lowest density of the material shown. Also, it has a refractive index that is appropriate for most vision correction needs. So at PPG, we believe that the data supports Tri-Vex is the best available optical lens material for AR devices, AR glasses. But beyond these current materials, PPG is continuing to drive the innovation of new optical materials and coatings. So what's next for the future of optical materials? As technology advances, new materials and novel manufacturing processes will certainly change the way that lenses and optical components are produced. And this will continue to improve the performance and the form factor of XR devices. So a key focus for PPG is advancing high-index photocurable materials. And since these materials can be cured quickly using only UV or LED light, there are opportunities to significantly reduce the manufacturing cycle times and overall energy consumption. So without exposure to high temperatures, these materials are compatible with heat-sensitive components that could then be embedded directly into the lenses. And this leads to the ability to produce monolithic, smart lenses rather than continuing on with composite lenses or sandwich assemblies that rely heavily on adhesives and sealants. Furthermore, these materials enable new additive manufacturing processes that unlock a whole array of sustainability advantages and geometric configurations. So imagine the ability to produce single component optical combiners with vision correction that can be used in totally new slim form factors while also knowing that you are reducing the generation of the microplastics that continue to accumulate all around us. So in closing, I appreciate your time and attention today. PPG, we truly believe that for true AR to succeed for the mass market, the industry must leverage the knowledge and developments that have been achieved in the ophthalmic industry. The optical lens material must be considered by its characteristics and its performance, and that the ideal lens material currently exists as Tri-Vex. But we're not stopping there. We're working on the next generation of optical materials, and we'd love to partner with you to work together on the next generation of smart eyewear. So thanks again for your time. I'd love to be able to answer any questions you may have. Feel free to catch me after the session or connect through LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Zachary.
Thank you.
Do you have any question from the audience? Otherwise, I can start maybe with one question.
Yeah.
I really find so interesting how the application of manufacturing in XR. Is there any main or are you also planning to have collaboration with specific groups? Also considering maybe more entertainment as well, or is more really into the scientific field?
So we're not focused really specifically on a particular end use as much as we really like to align ourselves with disruptors. And I mentioned the multi-layered partnerships. So, we have relationships with OEMs, we have relationships with the optical companies, we have relationships with manufacturers, and we believe it's really a partnership and conversation between all of the groups together to ensure the right materials selected or developed, it's manufactured in a way that leverages the technology and gets the most out of the material for the particular application. So, ultimately, we're coming at this from the ophthalmic background because we believe nirvana is true AR glasses, like we're seeing now through the progression that that Meta is working through with the Ray-Ban stories and now Project Orion.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody want to add something to this? Otherwise, thank you so much, Zachary.
Thank you.
And we will move on to the next one.